Hello, everyone, and welcome to Aaron's Reading Room with another live author interview. Today, I am joined by the very talented author, Anna J. Stewart. Anna, thank you so much for joining me today. How have you been?
Thanks for having me. I've been pretty good. I'm just coming off deadline, so I'm in between a really big high and heading for a really big crash. So you caught me on a good day. Tomorrow's probably the crash. So yeah, everything's going pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I did see a social media post by you that you did like 8 hours of writing or something like that to
Oh
get
yeah,
deadline.
yes. Yesterday was 9 hours. The day
Oh,
before that was seven. And I seem to be in this self-torture mode of having to have 3 a.m. starting days right up to when the book is due. I wrote like a quarter of the book in 2 days. The good news
wow.
is I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I mean, it
Oh,
went
good.
totally off the rails from what I had proposed to my editor, so we'll see what she thinks. But
Okay. Yeah.
I made myself cry, and it was a very
Oh, that's a
happily
good
ever
sign.
after. So yeah,
I think that's a good sign when the author makes themselves cry, gives themselves
yeah.
an emotional moment. Yeah. So do you work well with your back against the wall or would you prefer not to?
I would really prefer not to, but apparently I do work really well against the wall. Yeah. Um, but yeah, in fact, my mom mentioned that the other day. She says, "You do really well under pressure. You keep doing this to yourself, so something must be working." And I'm like, yeah, I would love to not be spending a couple of days, setting my watch alarm for 3 a.m. and then just regretting the past days that I talked myself out of sitting down in front of the keyboard. So this next book, which is due on December 31st, I will not have a 3 a.m. starting time. I have told myself that. So hopefully I can hold to it.
Well, we wish you luck on the next manuscript. So
Thanks.
we've already got some comments here. Reading room. Looking forward to the conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Cool.
Reading room. Always good to see you here.
Hi, reading room.
All right. Well, I usually start my interviews with asking my guests to share some covers. You had emailed me earlier and said that you weren't going to have the time to look through some stuff, so I decided I'd go ahead and do it for you. So the
Awesome.
first one
Okay.
we're going to talk about here is Safe in His
Oh,
Arms. This was one of your Butterfly Harbor series books, and it's lovely with the sun in the background and the cute couple and then the lighthouse as well. And then a more recent one, this one is Wyoming Promise by you as well. This is part of the Blackwells of Eagle Springs. This was the first book in that series, right?
correct. Yes, I got to write the first
Yes.
one.
Yes. All right. All right. Well, moving on, Anna, you were the first author that I actually coordinated with on my category journey. It was quite early in the process, too. So you wrote the third book that I featured for those read throughs, and that was Harlequin Heartwarmings Bride on the Run. And this was the ninth book in Butterfly Harbor series.
Yes.
So what was the most fun of writing this book? Because it was such a fun book to read.
You know, it was a really interesting book to write, mainly because when I first turned it in, my editor did not like it. I know, it's crazy because
What?
I mean, that book has actually won an award for best midnight contemporary romance. I think it was the Holt Medallion, and I just find it ironic that that's the one that I got a lot of pushback from my editor on that one, and I think it was because I had them in such close quarters. I've got the hero and the heroine pretty much locked on a boat for a while.
Mhm.
Um, the most fun I had was writing Duchess, the parrot,
Yeah.
who ends up as a stowaway on the boat. And mainly that's what happens when you write sweet romance and they can't do anything on the boat that, normally would probably happen. So
Right. Oh, yeah.
I needed a foil. I needed a third party on there somewhere. So thus Duchess popped up, and originally, because Duchess, I had to change who Duchess's previous owner was. Originally, the bird was owned by a former Broadway star. So I had originally that the bird was singing show tunes,
Mhm.
but because of copyright issues
Oh,
and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff, I couldn't use any of that. So I had to come up with a different idea of what this bird kept blurting out. And it was actually Melinda Curtis's idea to have Duchess be a former that belonged to I don't even know what they're called because I don't have one, obviously. is a physical trainer, you know, an exercise coach kind of thing. And she
Uh-huh.
said you can have a lot of fun with some of the things that come out of like spinning teachers' mouths and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So that's where that shift came from. But I have to admit, that's what made that book really fun, is because I was never sure what Duchess was going to do. And the way that bird kept going after the heroine's ex-fiance, I'm like, that's just gold. That's the kind of thing I would like to read. So that was really fun to write.
Yes, it was a great book. So, uh, viewers, check it out. It's definitely a good one, and you can jump into the Butterfly Harbor series in any book. So, that's a
Absolutely.
great thing about Harlequin series there.
Yes.
Well, talking about the Butterfly Harbor series, there are 12 books in it total. How does it feel now? Because I believe it's finished.
It's
Is that
finished.
correct? Yes. So
Yeah.
how does it feel now looking back on all of it? And what were some of your favorite moments along the way?
Well, Bad Boy of Butterfly Harbor, which is book one, was actually my second sale to Harlequin. My first was Christmas Actually with Melinda Curtis and Anna Adams, and that was a novella anthology. But my first single title series for them was Bad Boy. And I think this is kind of like childbirth, where you don't really remember a lot of the bad and struggles.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I just remember when I came up with the original idea, it felt right. And I honestly didn't really have any doubt that it would sell. And I don't know if that's just hindsight being optimistic or what, but I felt as if I really grew as an author, because I really kind of could feel myself getting better with each book that I write.
Mhm.
So it was a great learning curve for me. I will never again do a 12-book series. It was way too many. If only because it was getting really hard to remember who everybody was and where
Uh-huh.
everybody lived. And I wasn't keeping a story Bible at the time. So I had to remember everything or go back into a book for everything.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
from now on, six is my limit. The book I just turned in is book two in my new series, which is set in Hawaii. So it's a new small town, new group of friends, and everything. There might be a couple of Butterfly Harbor references in there every once in a while, but I feel like Butterfly Harbor will probably be my main home with Harlequin, only because it really helped me feel like an established author. And I'm like, oh, they want more Butterfly Harbor books. So that was a really it was a learning experience across the board, and I couldn't have asked for a better one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in the 12th book, did you call back every single couple from the
Yep.
the series?
Everybody is either everybody's mentioned. I would
Mhm.
say more than half of them have just walk on
Yeah.
appearances. And the ones who I made sure to feature in that last one were the kids, because
Mhm.
in the back of my mind, I do have an idea for Butterfly Harbor, the next generation, where it would be
Oh.
Charlie and Simon and Mandy and Kyle. And I've got a lot of kids in that town I can play with. And I think, you know, 25 to 27 years in the future,
Mhm.
I could write a new series without having to worry about having to kill off any older characters, because
There
that's
you go.
really what I would not want to do.
Yeah, yeah, that's, that and I think tricky to do in Heartwarming too, even if it's a side character, that's still kind of a
Yeah, nobody dies in
too hard.
Butterfly Harbor. No, 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 no. We don't do that.
So you mentioned that you've got a series coming out that's set in Hawaii.
Yeah.
The buzz for a while was that Heartwarming was not doing, waterfront towns, anymore for a while. So is it just because you're Anna J. Stewart, you can get away with that, or
No,
or has enough time passed that that they're doing it again?
I think it's a combination of things.
Mm.
First of all, Heartwarming is very aware that they need to keep a variety. Not everybody wants to read cowboys 24/7
Uh-huh.
or any, but they do want to keep the small town aspect. And
Yeah.
and Western and cowboy really fit well with a small town feel. Hawaii was my second proposal idea. after Butterfly Harbor was over, and I had sent in a proposal for a Western series because that was really what they were asking their authors to submit ideas for Westerns. And my editor came back and she said, "Yeah, I don't think so. What else do you have?" And that's code for, wow, you really can't write cowboys. Shocker. I know, because, it's just not my thing, really. I've done it with the Blackwells, but I'm doing that with a group and I've got a big support system.
Yeah.
Cowboys just aren't my natural fit. So when I proposed the Hawaii book and we went back and forth on a couple of things, and that'll be a 6-book series, that was it fit. So it was probably more of, yeah, we don't think this is going to work for you. We'll take a chance and, ditch the Cowboys for you and give you something else to write about.
Well, that's good of them. And we're very much looking forward to that series there.
Thank
Hello,
you.
Alicia. Good to see you.
Hi, Alicia.
It's good to have you here. All right. Well, your most recent heartwarming books are from the Blackwell family series, and that was the brainchild of you and Melinda Curtis. Please tell us all about how this continuity came to be, please.
Sure. But it was more Melinda than anybody, because Melinda's our idea author. If she sees something lacking in the market or lacking in the line, she's going to be the first one to jump up and say, "Hey, I've got an idea. I can execute it." And she can. So she's our general. She's the heartwarming general. So we had seen a number of the other lines, Desire and Romantic Suspense in particular, have continuity series. The Romantic Suspense has the Coltons, and I forget what the Desire Fortune.
The Fortunes of Texas? That
Yes,
one? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Clearly I'm behind on my reading.
Texas Cattlemen's Club? It's one of those two. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they have a couple of them, but we noticed that there wasn't anything that Heartwarming was really doing continuity series wise. And Melinda pitched the general idea to our editor. She and Carrie and I all share the same editor. And actually, Carol has her as an editor too. Amy usually has a different editor, but pitched the idea of, hey, we're thinking of a continuity, a series of the 5 of us, and they'd be interconnected and they'd be brothers, and Catherine's all great. Put it together, put a proposal in, and we'll see what happens. And that's how the Blackwell brothers first came about. And that was about 4.5, 5 years ago. It did really well, which was great. And it was fun to write because I'm writing with 4 of my best friends. So that makes it both fun. It also makes it a lot more work. It's a lot of Skype sessions, and we started on Skype, moved on to Zoom. And also at the time we were still attending the annual RWA conference. So we were able to meet in person, which made brainstorming sessions super fun. A lot more fun in person than it is on Zoom. So when that did really well, I don't think even the second or the third book was out in the series, and they came back to us and they said, "Do it again."
More.
So then we did the Blackwell sisters, and now this is the third go around, and this is the Blackwell of Eagle Springs, and it's an offshoot of the family we've already met in the first 2 series, but it's connected by Big E, which is Elias Blackwell, the grandfather. And in this one, he's back stirring the pot as he always does, because he's all about family and making sure the family is as connected as it can absolutely be. So that's always his goal, and that always threads through all of the books. So, and this time we meet his long lost sister, Denny, who is just as tenacious and stubborn and cranky. And I had such a good time writing the first book because I got to kind of establish who Denny was. So, and that's the benefit of writing the first book in the series, is that we all get approval over everything, but at the same time, I kind of get to set the tone, especially for the recurring characters. So yeah, we're on round 3. The 4th book, Her Wyoming Sheriff, I think, just came out, and that's by Carrie Lane Webb. And then the last book will be Melinda Curtis, which comes out at the end of November. And then of course there's Wyoming Secret Proposal by Amy. And then Carol's is Her Rodeo Rescue, Her Wyoming Rodeo Rescue.
Yeah, Wyoming Rodeo Rescue.
We went back and forth on a lot of the titles. So, but it's fun, it's family, there's tons of humor. especially in Carrie's. I got to set up one of the recurring incidents in Carrie's books where the heroine ends up in a particular situation, and I got to start that in my book, and it was just so much fun. And then, you know, I'm like, now you get to run with it, and I got to play with it, but now you get to take it home.
Well, I'm excited to see where this is going, because there's going to be a Blackwells of Texas at some point, right? Oh, I didn't say that.
We're working on it. We're working on it. It's hope. Everybody cross their fingers.
Yes.
We're hopeful.
All right. Well, we are, yes, we're hopeful. We've got our fingers crossed, and we've got all the faith in the world in you all.
Thank you.
Well, talking more about series and departing from Heartwarming, you've written 5 books so far in the Harlequin romantic suspense line called the Honor Bound series. Can you share with us what this series is all about?
Sure. So the Honor Bound series was originally only supposed to be 3 books, and it was More Than a Lawman, reunited by with the PI, and Gone in the Night. And really, 3 books is all I had planned on. And it was about 3 women who, when they were 9 years old, their 4th best friend was kidnapped and murdered. And for 20 years, the murder went unsolved. Each of those heroines took a different path in life. Eden St. Clair, in the first book, More Than a Lawman, kind of became a vigilante blogger where she would try her best to get cold cases opened because she really believed that the families deserved some kind of closure. And she was also really determined to get the victims justice, and so that they could rest. The second heroine, Simone, became a district attorney, and she really was focused on the justice angle and making people held accountable for whatever crimes that they committed. And then the third heroine became a child psychologist and a criminal psychologist. She wanted to find out the whys behind what makes people do what they do. So they each were totally affected by this one crime in 3 completely different ways. And I really liked the idea of examining one event having different impacts on people's lives.
Yeah.
So obviously they're all romance. But by the time I got to the end of the 3rd book, I'm like, I've got a lot of secondary characters I've met, and I really like them, and I'd like to keep going. So book 4 was actually the partner of the hero from the first book. And that was my kind of ode to Hitchcock and Rear Window. And that one was called Guarding His Midnight Witness. So books 1, 2, and 3 are connected. They have one overarching storyline that takes you for the first 3. And then all the rest of them are standalone, but all of the rest of the characters come back. So Prison Break Hostage came out earlier this year, and that was book 5. And I called that Prison Break meets Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
My heroine's a doctor, and she gets caught up in a prison break. And the hero is actually an undercover FBI agent who's been in prison for the past 18 months undercover. And he's in the prison break. Thank God, because otherwise she wouldn't have survived it. And then book 6 will be out in February, and that'll be Kyla and Jason's story. And Kyla is the former paralegal assistant to heroine number 2.
Okay.
So it just keeps going. And then there'll be 2 more books in this series. And I did just write the 8th book. A month and a half ago, I just turned it in. And it at the very end, everybody's there. The book ends with everybody on page. And that's really, as a reader, that's what I love to read. So that's what I always try to do at the end of any of my series.
Yeah, bringing that whole found family together, after a long series. So, so Harlequin's not going to ask for 4 more and get you to 12 on that.
I don't think so. I don't have anybody left. Everybody got a happily ever after.
Good, wonderful. Well, so it seems, on the surface, it seems like, writing Heartwarming and writing romantic suspense would be, obviously 2 very different jobs. How do you wear the different hats for a sweet romance and for romantic suspense?
Well, it's pretty much all about expectations, and
Mhm.
it's expectations on the readers. When they pick up a heartwarming, they know what they're going to get. It's going to be sweet. It's going to be very little sexual content. It's going to be a lot of internal emotions, a lot of small town, a lot of community. And then when you get into the romantic suspense, you've got more action, adventure. A lot of I call them adrenaline books. They go
Mhm.
ramp up the anxiety, and then you drop, and then it's up, and then it's down, and then there's quite a bit more of sexuality in those books.
Mhm.
So it's really just having to reprogram my brain every time I start a new book. It's like, okay, this is a heartwarming. Can't do this in a heartwarming, and don't forget to do this in the suspense.
Mhm.
There have been times I have forgotten that lesson, which gets really interesting when I'm going back and editing, and I've used the wrong name, or I've taken things a little too far in a heartwarming where it's not supposed to go. Um, so it's a little bit of a challenge, but it's also really nice to be able to bounce back and forth because they are so different. It really keeps my imagination going, and I think keeps my writing a little bit more fresh.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, so you had mentioned the Coltons earlier, and you've written in that series as
I have.
well. How
Yes.
how is it writing, for such a big continuity there?
I was flabbergasted because they choose the authors that they want to write for that
Mhm.
continuity series. So I was flabbergasted and honored that I got to be included with some of my absolute favorite authors. And it was a really interesting experience how the entire thing works. But and it's a little bit more pressure because
Mhm.
it's like you already know there are going to be thousands of sales of that book because that series
Oh,
is
yeah.
so popular.
Right, right.
And it doesn't matter who's writing the book, they're buying the Coltons. So um I took it as a way to really kind of do everything I could to showcase my voice and my writing style, and hope that I would catch enough of them that they'd be willing to give one of my other books a shot, which was really how I approached the first book that I wrote. And then the second book, I was so happy because my heroine, we pretty much get a lot of the information about the book, and then we create the story around it.
Mhm.
But my heroine was a chef, and I love writing books that have to do with cooking. So I kind of felt like I hit the real jackpot with that one. And it was, I honestly do not recall having any issues writing the book. It was like it almost wrote itself. And it's because I got to write something I really, really enjoy writing about.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. How do you pick out your food references? Is it like you're going through recipe on the internet, or is it just, what pops into your head? Oh, that sounds good. I'll talk about that.
I'm well, take for instance the book I just finished yesterday. It takes place in Hawaii, like I've said,
Mhm.
and we just got a title today. It's their surprise island wedding.
Oh,
Yeah, which I've never gotten a title that fast. I turned it in yesterday. I've got a title today.
wow.
Um, and in Hawaii, one of the big things about Hawaii, and I've been there a number of times, and I absolutely love it. I mean, you have to love a place that you're going to write about, but it's one of the few places on the planet where I actually feel like I stepped onto the islands and I felt like I was home.
Mhm.
And I do have family lineage going way back where they did go to the islands, I think from Tasmania or something. So I've always kind of
Okay.
felt I had a
Mhm.
connection to the islands. But food is a big part of the island. Uh, Eating and community and all of that kind of stuff. So it really suited well um, to heartwarming, especially. So, of course, they're going to have a big luau. I have a
Mhm.
luau in the first book. There's a luau in the second book, and so I got to do a lot of online research about okay, what is traditionally served at a luau?
Mhm.
How would that differ from, say, a family putting on a celebration, and what would the family be bringing as opposed to what you would experience if you went to like a big produced luau, that kind
Yeah,
of thing.
right.
So it usually has a lot to do with research, and I can spend hours surfing for recipes, but I'm also a huge Food Network junkie.
Oh,
I
yeah.
probably seen every episodes of Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives that has ever been produced. You know, Guy Fieri, absolutely love him or hate him. The man does amazing food, and he does amazing things with his power and with his celebrity.
Yeah.
So, that's so if nothing else is on television, I'm on the Food Network. Except I'm not crazy about the competition shows so much, but where you're learning about different cultures and different parts of the country. And if I didn't have a desire to go to a particular state before, I've seen something on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. I'm like, oh, maybe that would be fun to check out after all.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah, food plays a big part almost in everything I write. There's usually at least one eating scene in any of my books. And it's just because I love to cook, I love to bake, and I love to watch things about food. So
yeah. And it's always an easy way to bring up conversation, right? And talking
yes.
over a meal.
And it can eat up pages too. And there again, in Heartwarming, I got to fill up those pages with something other than sex.
Well, still talking suspense, your newest book, Exposed, comes out November 15th. That's this month. And the title has all sorts of double meanings in it, which I found very enjoyable on the read through. So please give us the pitch for Exposed.
So Exposed is about a Hollywood photographer, Riley Temple, who stumbles across some rather terrifying information dealing with a notorious murder conviction and case, which has supposedly been settled. There's been a conviction, or at least there's been an arrest, and somebody's in prison for this crime. And she comes across some photographs that were previously undeveloped. And as a photographer, her hobby is developing discovered film that nobody else has developed. And it kind of opens a whole can of worms. And her subsequent investigation into those photographs and what they actually mean leads her into a cop's arms who she probably should not trust, because he has some issues that he needs to address as far as loyalty and how he's going to end up protecting her, because she's just going full bore. She's not letting anybody stop her. So it starts off the Circle of the Red Lily series. The mystery of the mystery that she starts is going to continue through all 5 books. But as this book progresses, she brings in her 4 best friends, each of whom have certain talents that can lend themselves, or at least connections that lend themselves to how this case is eventually going to resolve itself. So every book will have a different hero and heroine. Every book will have a happily ever after for that couple. And then at the end of the 5th book, everything will resolve itself. So there'll be threads that are not tied up at the end of each book. Some will be, some will not. It'll lead to the next book, and then the next book. And so I'm really excited, because it was a great opportunity to do something completely new. And my editor literally said, write it the way you want to. And I had no restrictions as far as what could go on the page. And that was really, it was a gift that they gave me, because I was really able to embrace my voice.
Yeah. You could really tell reading through that it's just like, this is nothing like you'd find in a category. So I mean, even romantic suspense or intrigue,
Right. Yeah. And it was pretty dark, especially the prologue that I wrote. In fact, when I wrote it, I sent it to Melinda Curtis and Carrie Lynn Webb, because we usually run our new stuff by each other just to make sure we're on the right page, or so to speak. And Melinda was like, "Oh, this is great. This is so your voice. This is what you should be writing." And Carrie's all, "That was great. I can't read anymore. I'm too scared."
Yeah.
So I'm like, I hit that absolute perfect sweet spot I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a prologue. That was something. I won't give it away. So, viewers, you can pre-order. You can find a link to pre-order Exposed down in the description box. So definitely check that out. Well, Exposed
and it's just as a reminder, it's also pre-order price is $2.99. So that will go away shortly after release date, which is the 15th. Yeah. But $2.99, brand new book. So
yeah, it's a steal. Well, Exposed is book 1 in the Circle of the Red Lily series, and like you said, the core main characters have all been introduced, and so you set up lots of characters for the stories going forward. We've got Riley's friend group in the apartment building, and we've got this sexy ex-military building manager that appeared that I have a suspicion about, but We got a taste of what we're going to get in the next book or so.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we got a taste in the epilogue of where the next book is going to go. So what can you tell us about the stories to come?
Well, I will reveal here, and this is the first time anybody other than my editor or publisher knows, but the title of book 2 is called Vanished, and this will be Mabel's story. And people who have already read it have kind of emailed me and they've said, so Mabel's with Blake, right? Who's the handyman that I introduced? It is Blake, right? I have to reread the book before I start writing the other one. I've forgotten. And I'm like, nope. Blake is yay, thank you, Alicia. Blake is for someone later down the road. No, Mabel will be book 2. And Mabel has a very strong connection to the mystery that Riley has uncovered. And she has a very personal interest in seeing that the case is not forgotten. And I think that's really her greatest fear, is that people are going to forget the sensational part of it and it'll just fall by the wayside. And she is not about to let that happen. And so that'll be Mabel's journey, and she will have a hero who works in the DA's office, who's actually assigned to the case as it progresses. So, and he'll have, he has political ambition, so he has to be really careful about how he takes on a case with this kind of publicity attached to it. And of course, pairing him off with a woman who is not going to let anybody shove that case under the rug. I can't wait. I get to start writing it next week. So I can't wait to see, especially the first time putting those two on the page. Should really be fun. And then book 3 will be Cassia. And she is an agoraphobic computer science and forensic science genius, kind of. She's been a prodigy. She's a doctor. She has a PhD. I don't know a whole lot about her. I have a general idea as to why she is the way that she is, but I'm not going to know until I really start writing her book. I do know her hero is going to be someone she's worked with before. And she's going to be forced out of her comfort zone. She has not left that apartment building in 3 years. And there's a very good reason why. I just have to figure out what it is. And then 4 will be Sutton, who has 2 kids, and she works as a personal chef and a dietitian. I always have to throw in a food person in there, has to go into a series somehow for me. And then 5, which I purposely made her last, because I love the character so much, and I'm going to savor getting to her story. And so that'll be Laurel, and she's a high power defense attorney, and she's Riley Temple's best friend, which is book 1, so it'll bookend that way. And she's going to have a really interesting hero who I think is probably first going to show up in book 2. He's going to have to walk on, because the sparks have to start flying with those 2 a little bit before. And then, there's also the thread of, a secret society, and you never know who you can trust through the whole thing. So in my head, I know what I want the series to be. And I really feel free enough to do what I have to do to make that come true. So,
yeah, well, I am very excited. I'm on the edge of my seat now, and so definitely going to be along for the whole ride on this one.
Excellent.
Because we can't just leave it at where this first one ended. There's still so much we need to uncover.
Oh, so much. Yes.
Well, along with the heart-pounding suspense, you take out some of the tension by throwing in some pop/geek culture references. What is your favorite way to work these into a story?
I tend to speak that way anyway. I'm such a TV and movie junkie. The first movie I remember seeing in theaters was Star Wars. 1977. Oh, wow. That is my first memory of going to the movies. And I think that really kind of tweaked my brain so that I don't know if it just turned me into an instant geek or whatever, but You know, growing up, it was Wonder Woman and Princess Leia and Bionic Woman and really strong female characters that I
Hmm.
identified with immediately. So for me, there was really never a time where women weren't capable of doing absolutely everything they wanted to do. Um, but as far as being able to insert the pop culture stuff, and also I've been a lifelong obsessive about the golden age of Hollywood, and I was raised on classic movies, you know, Errol Flynn movies and Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, Marilyn Monroe. She and I share the same birthday, so
Uh,
I've always just had this really strong connection to her, and I've read so many books about her. And no, I have not seen the new movie, and I don't plan to. But being able to write this book and the way that I wanted to write it, it was really great being able to use all those pulp culture references.
mhm.
And I didn't have to censor myself or figure out a way to say it without saying it like I do with my Heartwarmings or my
Yeah.
Harlequin books. And rightly so, because they have to be careful about what gets put on the page in
Mhm.
reference to anyone else. So I totally get that deal I made when I signed the books. But with this one, I really got to be me on the page. So the conversations that those friends have when they're doing their Saturday morning mimosa yogas,
Uh-huh.
um, uh, those are the kind of conversations I've had with my friends, you know. So kind of, it was almost like the filter came off. Uh, and also, it was really, really nice to be able to swear. Um, you know, that's always a bugaboo for me,
Mhm.
especially when there's so many cops being written about. Cops swear, and it's not just because they swear, it's a pressure release. It's a way
Mhm.
for them to, you know, offload a lot of what they have to do. And so it was really nice to be able to drop an F-bomb once in a while, which
Yeah.
I do frequently anyway. So yeah, so it's nice to be able to bring in a lot of my own personal interests into what I'm writing, because for me, I think it shows a little bit more about who I really am.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to get into the pop culture a bit here. So, the
Okay.
Marvel movie universe is going as strong as ever. It's actually TV now too with Disney Plus and all of that. So,
Right.
how are you feeling about it all at this moment?
Oy, okay. So, I'm a huge Marvel fan. I've seen almost all of them
Hmm.
actually, I think I have seen all of the main motion pictures in the theaters.
Yeah.
They're movies that are made to be seen on the big screen.
Hmm. Right.
Um, I would say that for phase 1 and 2, and I actually had to write this down because I wasn't sure what everything is phase-wise.
Yeah.
But for phases 1 and 2, I really felt as if they're eminently watchable. I can watch any of those movies over and over and
Hmm.
over again. I can, you know, it doesn't matter where it is in the movie. If I, you know, flip through it in the channel, I will stop and I'll watch it. They're just eminently watchable. Part of me really does believe it should have stopped at Endgame.
Uh-huh.
Just should have stopped. But then we would not have gotten what has probably become my favorite Marvel movie. Right, Black Panther is my absolute favorite Marvel movie, and yes, I already have my tickets for Friday. First show, Friday, I am going to be there. I'm gonna be sobbing my eyes out, but I'm gonna be there. But
Hmm.
I thought,
Yeah.
Shang-Chi, I thought was masterful. I love that. I have watched that movie, I don't know how many times. My mother, who is not a big superhero movie fan,
Hmm.
loves it. She's watched it at least 2 or 3 times. I just love it. So if it had ended with Endgame, then we wouldn't have gotten Shang-Chi. So that's my I've not been as enamored with I thought Doctor Strange was such a disappointment. It just went totally off the rails. And as much as I
Hmm.
love Benedict Cumberbatch and I loved the first Doctor Strange, but the second one just really didn't do anything to me for me. And I thought they did the character of Wanda a disservice. I think everything that they built her up to
Hmm.
be in WandaVision, I think they utterly completely destroyed in this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was angry.
Uh-huh.
Actually, I was like, what was the point of WandaVision if you're just going to turn
Right.
her into a stereotype, which is really what they did in my opinion. So, I have a love-hate relationship with Marvel right now. Up until Endgame, I was 100% on board. Now they've got me about 89, 90%. Thor Ragnarok was genius.
Yeah.
Love and Thunder. was okay.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
it was fun, and it
Mhm.
was I think that was the first movie I went to see after lockdown, so it
Okay.
was
Yeah.
nice to get out and
Uh-huh.
see it on a big screen. But have I bought it on DVD? No. Shang-Chi
Mhm.
was the last Marvel movie I bought on DVD, and everything else since then has just been kind of it's fun, it's distracting, but I'm not obsessed with it like I have
Yeah.
been previous Marvel movies.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Shang-Chi had this what it has going for it is it's so deep into the series of the collective of the movie TV verse, but you can just watch it on its own. You don't have to
Yes.
watch anything else with it, and it's still just super enjoyable and just really, really great.
Well,
And
it had been a while since we got a real hero's journey.
mhm,
We got it with Iron Man and we had it with Captain America.
mhm.
And to a certain extent, we had it with Thor, but Thor was kind of already established as a
Yeah,
god. So that's not
right.
really he's already he starts where most other stories end.
Mhm.
But with Shang-Chi, it really felt like a hero's journey from the innocent waking up moment until the culmination of him becoming part of what I assume is going to be the next group of Avengers. We shall see.
Mhm.
I really, really hope they're going to make another Shang-Chi movie because I was sad that I didn't get to see it on the big screen. I've only seen it on
Yeah.
the television. So
Uh-huh.
I hope they re-release it one day to the theaters because I just love it. Just
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, do a double feature day or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I totally agree with you on the whole Wanda thing. Like it seemed like in Multiverse of Madness, it's yeah, they just undid everything in Wanda. All the growth that she went through in that. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, no, just throw that in the trash, you know?
Well, yeah, and it was annoying,
Mhm.
especially given the time that we're living in currently. And I was gonna say, I really enjoyed Black Widow. I thought, and I don't know why there's a love-hate relationship with Black Widow. I thought it was really fun.
Mhm.
David Harbour, of course, pretty much steals it, and so does Florence Pugh playing her sister.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I think Marvel has a little bit of a heroine problem where they do really well with their heroes, but I think
Mhm.
they need to do a little bit of focusing with their heroines.
Yeah.
I would love to see a series with oh god, I can't remember her sister's name, but Black Widow's sister and
Mhm.
the young girl from Hawkeye.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that was really fun
I want a series with
seeing
those
those
two
2. Yeah.
because I thought Hawkeye was great too, and I think I tend to like the ones that seem to be a little less attention paid to it. I feel like they kind of put Hawkeye out and they just kind of like pushed it aside and say, yes, Hawkeye is out. And now we're moving on to the next thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, my so the reasons you like Black Widow are the reasons my partner hated it is because they feel like Black Widow got sidelined in her own movie. And so that was
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, like I say, yeah, she wasn't the character I mentioned, was she? No, it
Yeah.
was the supporting ones.
Yeah. Well, moving on now on the flip side here, and not to play favorites or to do a comparison or anything like that, the DC movie universe is still, stumbling along, I
They're
guess.
plugging there. They're
they're
trying.
they're hanging in there. How you feel about those ones?
Oh, DC. Um, okay. So DC always seems to get Batman right.
Hmm.
For the most part, I don't think there's been and I even like the George Clooney Batman, but then I'm a George Clooney fan. So, but as far as these latest group of DC movies, I loved the first Wonder Woman movie.
Hmm.
Absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I am a Wonder Woman fan going back to 1977. I would watch Linda Carter and twirling around in her costume
Uh-huh.
every week when I was a kid. So I thought they did really well with Wonder Woman. And I thought the first Aquaman movie was really fun.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
really
I
enjoyed that one.
yeah, I don't know whether or not I'm gonna see the second one just because of issues with some of the other people in the cast.
Mhm.
But I love Jason Momoa. I've watched him ever since he was on Stargate Atlantis. So, and he's the reason I started watching Game of Thrones. So seeing him in Aquaman was awesome. And I'll eventually probably see it. It's just a matter of how much money I want to put into that.
Right.
Um,
Right.
that said, I thought Wonder Woman 84 was horrifically bad. I mean, I have yet to make it through it a second time.
Mhm.
We went to see it in the theaters, and I think I sat there in shock for about 5 minutes after, going, as good as the first one was, that is as bad and disappointing as the second one was. So for me, if I hear a DC movie's coming out, I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I'll wait for DVD or streaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Is it on HBO Max?
exactly. And I was pleasantly surprised with the Batman that they just put out with,
Mhm.
oh, what's his face? I can never remember
Robert
his name.
Pattinson?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it's really kind of hard to screw up Batman,
Mhm.
honestly. Although the Clooney one came close, but I thought that, Batman movies for me, it always hinges on the villains.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
the best Batman movies have been the ones with the best villains. That's why The Dark Knight is hands down. It's still the best Batman movie, and it's because of Heath Ledger. It's not because of
Yeah.
Batman.
Right. Mhm.
Um, so as far as, I'm trying to think what else is coming out in DC, and I'm also not a big Superman fan.
Mhm.
Never have been. He's not my favorite. Superman to me is Christopher Reeve.
Mm, mhm.
And it doesn't matter who else is playing him. That's always what's first in my mind. So, everybody was losing their minds over the last couple of weeks because Henry Cavill is leaving The Witcher so that he can do another Superman movie. And I'm like,
Oh, is that the
oh,
reason why?
honey,
Okay.
that's what I've heard it is. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
honey, no, no,
Yeah.
because honestly, he's brilliant in The Witcher, and
He
I've never
is, yeah.
particularly cared for him before. And I thought he was absolutely masterful in The Witcher. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I do not need another Superman movie
Right, yeah,
ever.
yeah.
I just don't.
Uh-huh. To his credit, this is just the rumor mill, but he is a huge fan of the Witcher mythos and the books and
Yeah.
video games and things like that, and I've heard that, he and the writers, butt heads quite a bit on what the show should be, and
Uh,
so it's like I kinda can't blame him there because, the
yeah.
producers get the final say, right?
Well, I figure he had to know what he was walking away from
Mhm.
in order to do that, because I mean, I don't know that much about the Witcher mythos. I don't, I haven't read
Same, yeah.
I'm almost clueless. I went into it because that's the kind of story that I like.
Mhm.
It's supernatural, and it's exciting, and it's fantasy, and it's different. And it just happened to star Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'll look forward to the third season. I have to rewatch seasons 1 and 2 again because I've forgotten who everybody is. But will I be
Mhm.
going to see the next Superman movie? No, probably not.
Yeah. It's
No.
I haven't read any news about it, but if Zack Snyder is not anywhere near it, I might give it a chance.
There's that too, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, he's like he's just too much. Superman's too much, and so yeah, it's difficult. My favorite Justice League stories are always the ones where um Superman's not enough, and the other heroes have to use their brains really to get around the problem and
Yeah.
you
Well,
know
and I will say that the Snyder cut of Justice League was 10 times better than the original theatrical one. And
oh
I was
yeah.
shocked that it was. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, well, I mean, because I mean, I enjoyed the first one.
Mhm.
There again, I went to see it because it had Wonder Woman and Aquaman in it.
Mhm.
And I thought Ben Affleck made a great Batman.
I did too. Yeah.
I wasn't that I can take him or leave him, but I didn't think he was. I don't know why he gets picked on as much as he does,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
um, I was shocked at how good I thought the Snyder cut was compared. I'm like, my question is, when are we getting a cyborg movie? That's the
Mhm.
movie I want to see.
Oh yeah.
And that character seems to have just been completely removed
Yeah.
from DC altogether. And I thought that actor and that
Mhm.
character was probably the best part of either one of those cuts of the Justice League.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Ray Fisher is his name, and
Yes,
he's
thank you. I
really
follow him on Twitter. I
good.
should know that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really interesting seeing the Snyder. I'm glad we got it because
Yes.
it was very clear once we saw that one how much Joss Whedon's fingers were on everything in the original,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, okay, all those, I mean, I I know Buffy the Vampire Slayer is just, like untouchable to many people, but I'm not quite a fan of the one-liners and things like that. So
Yeah.
and that's just me though. All right. Well, you mentioned Black Panther. Definitely looking forward to Wakanda Forever. But are there any other movies coming out that you're looking forward to?
We're heading into Oscar season. So
Mhm.
the Fablemans, the new movie that is essentially kind of an autobiography of Steven Spielberg's childhood and how he became a filmmaker.
Oh.
They just did a
Mhm.
story on this on Sunday morning this past weekend. Yesterday, you can tell I'm losing days. uh, that one that one I really want to see because Steven Spielberg and the way that he tells a story and the way
Mhm.
that he can pull whatever he's seeing in his brain and put it in front of all of us to see is just mesmerizing. I mean, I just love his movies so much. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this when he's directed it about his own childhood.
Yeah.
So that'll be really interesting. And then I think the only other movie I'm really anxious to see is the Knives Out sequel, Glass Onion. I
Mhm.
cannot wait. I loved that first movie so much. I was like talking about it for weeks afterwards. And I think it's because I am very rarely surprised in a movie.
Mhm.
Usually within the first, especially if it's a murder mystery kind of thing, within the first 5 or 10 minutes, I know who did it. And
Yeah.
I'm very rarely wrong. And that movie kept me guessing constantly. And Ryan Johnson still managed to surprise me and twist it in a way that I never saw coming. And to me, that is exactly what I want out of entertainment is I want to be surprised. I don't want to see it coming from a mile away. So
Mhm.
Knives Out, Glass Onion, it looks like it's going to be a great cast. So I'm super excited about that one.
Oh, yeah. Great. Great. Well, on your website, we see that you have a contest going where you're going to be giving away a signed copy of Holiday Kisses, excuse me.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So Holiday Kisses is the fifth book in the Butterfly Harbor series. I'm trying to think if I had any others that took place at Christmas, but that one is specifically a Christmas story.
Mhm.
So Calliope Jones, who anybody watching, I named the character in homage to my grandmother's favorite soap opera character from Days of Our Lives, who was named Calliope Jones. And she was just this wackadoodle character on Days of Our Lives, I remember her wedding dress lit up or something. I don't know. But my Calliope is a little bit more sedate. To me, she's Butterfly Harbor's answer to Hallmark's The Good Witch. Um,
Mhm.
so there's a lot of magic that happens around Calliope, and it's a Christmas story, so we get the added Christmas bonus too.
Oh,
So it's a nice, sweet, heartfelt book, and it's one of the books where the secondary character almost took off or took over the entire story because Alethea, who is a future heroine, that's where she first appears, and I did not even know she was going to be in the book
yeah.
until she arrived in town. So it's about healing, and it's about coming to terms with things in our lives that aren't always easy. Uh, but how we deal with them really determines who we are, especially for the
Mhm.
future. So, and of course, it's a romance. So there's a lovely happily ever after, and Calliope is one of the characters that shows up in just about every single book. So it was
Yeah.
really fun to write her story.
Mhm. Yeah, I imagine so. All right. Well, what does Anna J. Stewart have coming up in books and in life and just anything we can look forward to?
Well, books and life for quite a while are going to be intertwined. So I'm writing for the next couple of months at least. So like I said, next week I start writing the second book in the Circle of the Red Lily series, and that'll be out next July. July 11th, I think, is
Okay.
going to be the release date. The cover reveal is coming in a couple of weeks. So if you're subscribed to my
Ooh.
newsletter, you'll be the first people to see it. And then February is the next honor bound book, and that's the PI's Deadly Charade. And then I will also there's another honor bound book coming out next year. I think it's in October, and they just gave me the title of it a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's called the it has Vegas in the title. You think I could remember it? Obviously, I didn't write it down, but that'll be out next year, and I'll have at least 2 of the Hawaii books out. So next year, minimum of 5, hopefully a little bit more. And I'm starting to play around with a new idea that might be taking me into a new genre, or I might even start a new genre, because I'm really intrigued with some ideas that take me into horror.
Oh, wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, yeah. I'm excited about that. So we'll keep an eye out on that. So
Yes.
definitely exciting stuff. Well, Anna, thank you so much for joining me on my YouTube channel. I know you're very busy, and so I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come talk to me.
Oh, well, thank you so much for asking. It was so much fun talking to you.
All right, watchers. So my next live appearance maybe will be on this Who Picked This Book Club live show. That's on my friend Nicole's channel, and it's Not My Type by Evie Mitchell. That'll be this Wednesday, the 11th. I haven't started the book yet, so we'll see if I can finish it in the next 2 days, but I might see you there. But if not, check that out. Nicole and Alicia are going to be there as usual. And then coming up on my channel this month, the comment will pop up. What's going on here? There we go. All right, the live discussion interview with the vampire, the AMC show. We are going to talk about that on the 21st of this month, and that will be at 10 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Pacific. We talked about the book last month, and so now we're going to be talking about the new show, which if you haven't watched that, oh my God, you need to go watch that. It is,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a show that I could say was just perfect, but it is so good. It is so good. I'm blown away.
You're the first person I've really heard anybody say anything about it. So, because I'm not the biggest Anne Rice fan. I think she's
Mhm.
amazing at what she wrote, but I was never really on the vampire kick with her.
Yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
and I did see the movie, but I was like, eh. So okay, I will add that to my watch
No,
list for
I was the
sure.
exact same way, and I didn't read the book until last month, and I enjoyed it enough, but there were some just some things that didn't age well from the book that came out in the mid 70s, you know. But,
Sure.
but the show just fixed everything, and you know, I don't know
Okay.
about say what you will about revising book adaptations and things like that, but my God, it is so good.
Excellent. Okay. Yay. Now I know.
Well, thank you, Alicia, for being here. Thank you, Reading
Yeah.
Room, for checking us out. All
Thank
right,
you.
everyone, have a good evening, and we'll see you in the next show.